Imagine this. It's for 25 BC, you're 12 years old, born into a wealthy family in the heart of ancient Athens. This is the golden age of the city. Marble temples gleam under the sun, philosophers debate in the agora, and democracy is the new, radical idea shaping the world. Everyone around you, every adult, constantly reminds you how lucky you are. You've been chosen for a special path. Each morning, you make your way to the gymnasium, carrying a wax tablet and a stylus. But this place isn't just for running and wrestling. This is the training ground for the elite, where boys from the most powerful families are molded into future citizens. You're here to become a leader, an orator, a soldier. You train in the open air, supervised by instructors who are deeply respected, admired, and trusted without a single question. Your father has spared no expense to ensure you have a place here. He firmly believes that a good education is the ultimate form of protection, the best shield he can give you in life. And in Athens, the gymnasium is the very foundation of that education. But today, something feels different. You notice it in the small details. The trainers seem to linger a little longer than usual. Certain philosophers watch you and the other boys with an intensity that feels more personal than academic. You see older students quickly look away when you try to make eye contact. Some of them move stiffly, almost cautiously, as if they're in pain. When an adult enters a room, conversations just stop. You don't know it yet, but your name has already come up in discussions. Not in a classroom lecture, but behind the closed doors of private homes, during lavish dinners attended by the city's most influential men. They've talked about your family's status, your appearance, your perceived potential. In ancient Athens, boys like you were not just students, you were seen as assets, a commodity. What we today would immediately and clearly identify as exploitation was deeply woven into the social fabric of Greek life. These relationships between older men and younger boys had specific names, established rituals, and clear expectations. And they weren't just accepted, they were publicly approved. They were framed as a form of mentorship, a way to guide a young man's moral development. It was all justified as tradition. No one ever stopped to ask what the boys themselves thought about it. Across the entire Greek world, thousands upon thousands of adolescent boys were involved in these arrangements at any given moment. This wasn't a hidden secret or a shameful crime. It was celebrated. You could see it depicted on vase paintings that decorated the homes of the wealthy. Famous thinkers like Plato and Socrates wrote about these bonds, describing them as the purest and highest form of love. Parents actively participated. Some probably believed this was simply the price their sons had to pay for social advancement. Others might have genuinely thought it built character, toughening them up for the harsh realities of public life. And a few, perhaps, just felt they had no other choice, that this was the way things were, and to resist was pointless. The gymnasium itself, the very place of your education, was designed to support this system. Its physical layout, with its secluded corners and private rooms, allowed for moments of privacy disguised as one-on-one instruction. The daily schedule was crafted to include moments of vulnerability, which were framed as necessary for discipline, health, or artistic refinement. The authority figures, your teachers, your trainers, held all the power. They controlled access to opportunities, they decided who received praise, and they administered punishment. And then, it starts to happen to you. You begin to receive special attention. A respected philosopher singles you out, praising your sharp intellect. A trainer casually mentions that powerful men have noticed your promise, your potential. You're told this is a great honor, that the guidance of the right mentor could shape your entire future, setting you on a path to greatness. Your father agrees to the arrangement before you even fully understand what is being offered. He sees it as a victory, a sign that his investment in you is paying off. Soon after, the first gift arrives. It's expensive, symbolic, and impossible to refuse without causing a major insult. You're told it's for your education, to aid in your growth as a scholar and a citizen. You feel a strange mix of emotions, pride, confusion, and a deep, unsettling unease. And just like that, you are marked. The other men who may have shown interest now step back. A choice has been made, but it wasn't made by you. You don't yet realize that what is being called your education is actually a script, one that was written long before you were born. It's a script that countless boys before you have already been forced to live through. This isn't a story about one bad man or a single corrupt teacher. This is the story of an entire system, a system designed by the powerful, for the powerful. And now, you are inside it. But what happens when mentorship becomes control? And when that control becomes something much, much darker? Have you ever wondered how something deeply wrong can become completely normal? How an entire society can look at a harmful system and call it tradition, honor, or even education? Today, we're going to explore a story that's both ancient and disturbingly modern. It's a story about power, trust, and how systems of abuse are built not in the shadows, but in plain sight. It begins subtly. At first, nothing feels openly wrong. You have a mentor, someone respected, someone who speaks with a gentle authority. He praises your discipline. He frames every interaction as a lesson, a piece of wisdom being passed down to you. When that first hint of discomfort creeps in, that little voice inside you that says something isn't right, it's quickly dismissed. You're told it's just immaturity, a weakness you need to overcome. You're told you'll outgrow it. This is the first layer of the system's defense. It rebrands your intuition as a flaw. Then, the isolation starts. It's a gradual process, almost unnoticeable. Your mentor encourages you to spend less time with your friends, your peers. He suggests you dedicate fewer hours at home. Instead, you're offered more advanced instruction, special sessions that happen in private spaces, away from prying eyes. Your parents are told this is a tremendous honor. It's a sign of your exceptional promise, proof that you are destined for greatness. They are proud. They see it as a validation of their hopes for you. They don't see the walls being built around you, one brick at a time. Soon, you start to meet other boys like you, others who have also been chosen for this special path. But they don't talk much. There's a strange quietness about them. Some are younger than you, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and confusion. Some are older, and the older ones, they move differently. They are quieter, more careful, as if they've learned through experience when silence is the safest choice. They don't need to warn you about what's coming. They don't have to say a word. You can feel it in the air, in their guarded glances, in the way they hold themselves. You feel the unspoken truth. As time goes on, the expectations escalate. The lessons, once about skill or philosophy, become deeply personal. The lines between teacher and student, between public and private, begin to blur until they're almost gone. The one rule that is never, ever broken is that authority is not to be questioned. Every step, every new demand, is framed as a sacred tradition, a part of the culture, an essential philosophical exercise. When you hesitate, when your body and mind scream no, your discomfort is used against you. You're told that your resistance is proof that the lesson is necessary. Your struggle is twisted into a sign of your own ignorance, and the only cure is more instruction. You might think this was just a series of unfortunate events, a few bad actors, but it wasn't. When you look back at the historical records, at the ancient texts, you find that this was not accidental. The philosophers and teachers of that era wrote about it. They created manuals on how to gain a young person's trust. They detailed methods for shaping obedience. They even explained how to redefine a student's resistance as a lack of understanding, turning their no into a reason for more control. These weren't dark secrets whispered in hidden rooms. They were instructional methods, passed down from one generation of mentors to the next. And the law offered no protection. It was designed to support this structure. Legal protections existed for disputes between adult men, between citizens. A boy, a student, was not considered an equal party. Courts would intervene if one mentor felt another had poached his prized pupil, but they would not intervene over the harm done to the student himself. A boy's voice carried no weight in a court of law. His experience, his pain, his truth, it was all irrelevant. The legal system was not blind. It was complicit. It saw the system and upheld it. This constant pressure, this environment, it begins to change you from the inside out. You become an expert at reading moods. You learn to anticipate what your mentor wants before he even asks. You learn to seek approval with a desperate hunger, because his attention is the only measure of your worth. This isn't just you adapting by chance. This is the intended outcome. It is conditioning, a systematic reshaping of your personality. You are being trained to find value only in your own submission, and you see how the other boys react. You see the different paths this conditioning creates. Some boys break inward. They retreat into a shell of silence and compliance, their spirits slowly dimming. Others adapt. They become chameleons, mastering the art of pleasing their mentor, playing the game to survive. And then there are a few, the ones who perhaps suffer the deepest wound. They begin to believe the lies completely. They convince themselves that this control, a form of love, that this exploitation is honor, that their value as a person is tied directly to their ability to serve and obey. And through them, the cycle is guaranteed to continue. The most broken become the system's future guardians. This isn't just happening in private. The message is reinforced constantly in public. There are gatherings, ceremonies, and public events where you and the other boys are put on display. You serve the adults, you perform for them, you remain visible, but completely unheard. You stand there, smiling, while the men in the room discuss you openly. They evaluate your progress, your obedience, your potential, as if you were an investment they were managing. And in that moment, you have a chilling realization. Every single man in this room knows. Every man here has either gone through it, is perpetuating it, or is benefiting from it. They all participate, and not a single one of them sees a problem. This isn't a culture of secrecy, it's a culture of normalization. The abuse is so deeply woven into the fabric of society that it has become invisible. As you grow older, you begin to see the long-term consequences, the final chapters of this story for the boys you knew. Some simply age out of the system and disappear from the record. They vanish into obscurity, their stories untold, their fates unknown. Others attempt to build normal lives. They get jobs, they have families, but they carry an invisible damage, a weight that shapes every relationship and every decision they make for the rest of their lives. And then there are the others, the ones who repeat the pattern. They step into the role of the mentor, the one that was once used against them. The system doesn't just harm children. It teaches them how to reproduce it. It is a self-perpetuating machine. So, we have to ask the most important question. How did an entire civilization justify this? How did they defend it morally, legally, and even spiritually? They created philosophies that prized obedience over autonomy. They built legal frameworks that protected the powerful, not the vulnerable. They developed spiritual beliefs that framed submission as a path to enlightenment. They didn't hide the abuse, they consecrated it. Uncovering these historical patterns is just an academic exercise. It forces us to look at our own world today and ask some uncomfortable questions. Where do we see power imbalances being excused as tradition? Where is vulnerability exploited under the guise of opportunity? What modern systems are we a part of that, years from now, people will look back on with horror and ask, how did they not see it? The story of these boys is a warning. It shows us that the most dangerous systems aren't the ones that operate in secret. They're the ones that happen right in front of us, the ones we've been taught to accept as normal. Understanding how this happens is the first step toward making sure it doesn't happen again. Thank you for joining me on this exploration today. For centuries, a deeply ingrained system of abuse flourished in ancient Greece, hidden in plain sight, and the justifications were woven into the very fabric of society. Greek philosophy, the foundation of Western thought, provided the rationale. Prominent thinkers argued that these relationships between older men and young boys weren't just acceptable, they were beneficial. They claimed it elevated society, created discipline, fostered loyalty, and built strength in the next generation of leaders. It was framed as a mentorship, a rite of passage. This idea was reinforced everywhere you looked. Mythology was filled with tales of gods choosing beautiful youths as their companions, presenting these bonds as divine and aspirational. Epic stories celebrated heroes who formed unbreakable, intense bonds with their younger comrades, framing these relationships as the ultimate expression of loyalty and virtue. Even religion didn't challenge the system. In many ways, it endorsed it. The sacred rituals and social structures all pointed to the same conclusion. This was the natural order of things. This was how a boy became a man. Imagine you're a boy in this world. The attention begins when you're around 12 or 13. An older, influential man takes an interest in you. He guides your education, your physical training, your entry into society. He praises your beauty and your potential. At first, it feels like an honor. You are chosen, you are special. Everyone around you, from your family to your peers, sees this as a mark of future success. But as you grow older, the nature of this mentorship becomes clearer, and the lines between guidance and exploitation blur completely. By the time you reach 16 or 17, the attention starts to fade. You're no longer the beautiful youth. Younger boys are now the center of attention, chosen by the same men who once chose you. You're told this is simply growth, a graduation. You've completed your training. Now, you're expected to move on to marry a woman, to take your place as a citizen, to lead your own household, and eventually, to become a mentor yourself. You're expected to forget, but you don't forget. You can't. You carry the confusion, the shame, and the trauma into adulthood. Your relationships with others feel distant, shallow, or transactional because the first significant bond you formed was based on a power imbalance and your own objectification. You spend the rest of your life chasing a form of approval that was always conditional, tying your self-worth to the validation of powerful men. The emotional damage is profound and lasting. Some of these former students, now men, cling to the very system that hurt them. It's the only structure they've ever known, the only path to power they understand. This is how generational trauma takes hold and perpetuates itself. Fathers, once the boys in this system, repeat the cycle with a new generation. Society continues, uninterrupted, for centuries. A culture of silence and acceptance allows the abuse to become a tradition, a cornerstone of civilization. And here's the most tragic part. The voices of those boys, their pain and their experiences, never make it into the history books. They are erased. What we read about are the accomplishments of the men they became, the philosophers, the generals, the politicians. We see the magnificent temples they built, the democracies they founded, the battles they won. We celebrate their legacy. But we don't hear the silence upon which that legacy was built. That is the real cost. When we admire the grandeur of ancient civilizations, we rarely stop to ask who paid the price for their greatness, and how. We see the brilliant achievements that remain, but the human suffering that fueled them is buried deep beneath the marble ruins and epic poems. The glory is preserved, the pain is forgotten. But this isn't just a story about ancient history. The dynamics are timeless. Anywhere that authority goes unquestioned, anywhere that powerful institutions prioritize their reputation over the well-being of individuals, anywhere that tradition is used to override basic human empathy, the same patterns can emerge. History may not repeat itself exactly, but as the saying goes, it often rhymes. Remembering stories like this isn't about judging the past with our modern morals. It's not that simple. It's about recognizing how easily harm can be normalized, how systems of abuse can be justified, and how quickly we can lose our moral compass when power goes unchallenged and dissent is silenced. Those boys weren't just abstract symbols of a bygone era. They were children, and their silence, Their suffering, their stolen innocence, helped build empires. It forces us to ask a difficult question. If history's brightest and most celebrated civilizations carried shadows this deep, what uncomfortable truths are still being ignored in our own time? What voices are being silenced right now? And what price are we paying for our own progress? To uncover another story that history tried to forget, click on the next video. And if you believe that these forgotten voices deserve to be heard, subscribe to A Wicked Historian and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our explorations into the shadows of the past. Let me know in the comments what other hidden histories you'd like me to uncover. Thanks for watching.